story! So glad I brought some crickets.
And Mufasa. Two brothers who set off on a danger.
Indeed have someone.
That's Zazu, my scout. Don't eat him.
You have...
Finally, food.
If you take my life, you will never...
You expect us to follow this hallucination?
We go together. There will be one Lion King.
We're trapped! What do we do?
Get ready to run!
We have come to rule without mercy. We are nearing destiny, Mufasa.
Oh, stand down! I am hungry!
Before Simba's roar echoed across the Pride Lands, there was another king whose story remained hidden in the shadows. Today on Hidden Real Fact, we're diving into Mufasa, the Lion King, exploring the movie, its secrets, and the untold facts Disney doesn't want you to miss. Mufasa, the Lion King is a 2024 American musical drama movie made by Walt Disney Pictures. The film uses realistic animation and works as both a prequel and a sequel to The Lion King, 2019, which itself was a remake of the 1994 animated classic. The movie was directed by Barry Jenkins with a screenplay by Jeff Nathanson. Returning cast members include Seth Rogen, Billy Eichner, Donald Glover, Beyoncé tilde copyright Knowles Carter, and John Connie. New voice actors in this film are Aaron Pierre, Kelvin Harrison Jr., Tiffany Boone, Mads Mikkelsen, Thandai Newton, Lenny James, Anna Kanani Rose, and Blue Ivy Carter, who makes her first appearance in a feature film. The story is told by Rafiki as he shares with Simba and Nala's cub the history of Mufasa, how he first met Scar, Sarabi, Rafiki, and Zazu, his battle against a rival pride of white lions, and the journey of how he became king of the Pride Lands. The idea of making a prequel to The Lion King was confirmed in September 2020, with Barry Jenkins as the director and Jeff Nathanson completing an early script. In August 2021, Aaron Pierre and Kelvin Harrison Jr. were announced as part of the voice cast, followed by more casting updates between September 2022 and April 2024. The film was officially confirmed with its title revealed at the 2022 D23 Expo. Work on the movie slowed down in July 2023 because of the SAG-AFTRA strike. The film is dedicated to James Earl Jones, who voiced Mufasa in both the 1994 film and the remake, and who passed away before this movie was released. As a tribute, his voice is included briefly in the opening titles. Mufasa, The Lion King premiered on December 9, 2024, at the Dolby Theatre in Los Angeles and was released in the United States by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures on December 20. The movie received mixed reactions from critics but earned $722.6 million worldwide, becoming the sixth highest-grossing film of 2024. After Simba becomes king of the Pride Lands, he and Nala have a daughter named Kiara and are waiting for the birth of another cub. They travel to an oasis for the birth and leave Kiara in the care of Timon and Pumbaa. Rafiki comes to visit and begins telling the story of Kiara's grandfather, Mufasa, while Timon and Pumbaa add their own funny comments. When Mufasa was a cub, he lived with his parents, Masco and Afia, who were searching for a legendary place called Mile. A flood swept Mufasa away, carrying him into wetlands where he met Taka, a young royal cub. After the two of them survived an attack by crocodiles, Mufasa was welcomed by Queen Esh but tested by King Obasi, who made Taka and Mufasa race to decide if he could stay. Taka lost on purpose so Mufasa would be accepted. The cubs became close friends, though King Obasi did not trust outsiders. During a hunt, Mufasa killed one of two white lions who attacked. The other escaped and warned Kuros, leader of the banished outsiders, who wanted revenge for the death of his son Shaju. Kuros and his followers attacked Obasi's pride, killing Obasi, Esh, and their lions. Mufasa and Taka fled, jumping into a river to escape. They later met Sarabi, her bird scout Zazu, and a young Rafiki. Guided by visions, Rafiki led them toward Mile. The outsiders caught up to the group, forcing Sarabi to start an elephant stampede to help them get away. During the chaos, Taka developed feelings for Sarabi but grew jealous when Mufasa saved her life. Out of kindness, Mufasa gave Taka the credit for her rescue. Later, while traveling through snowy mountains, Sarabi admitted she knew Mufasa had saved her, and the two fell in love. Jealous and hurt, Taka secretly joined forces with Kuros and led the outsiders to their group. At Mile, Rafiki declared that Mufasa was his brother from prophecy. Soon after, the outsiders attacked. Mufasa discovered Taka's betrayal during the battle with Kuros. When Mufasa was trapped in a cave and nearly killed, Taka stepped in with regret. Kuros clawed Taka's face, leaving a scar. With the animals of Milo fighting beside him, Mufasa faced the outsiders until an earthquake struck, killing most of them. Kuros dragged Mufasa into an underwater cavern, but the rockfall gave Mufasa the chance to defeat him. Taka reluctantly pulled Mufasa out to keep him from drowning. Mufasa became king of Mile and reunited with his mother, Afia. Learning that his father Masgo had died, he forgave Taka but rejected his name, leading Taka to call himself Scar. Mufasa climbed onto the newly named Pride Rock and roared as king. In the present, Kaya roared to the sky as Mufasa's spirit watched over her. She and her friends returned to Simba to meet her new baby brother, promising to pass on Mufasa's story to him. The legacy of James Earl Jones and the transition to Aaron Pierre as Mufasa. The voice of Mufasa in the original 1994 The Lion King was indelibly etched into cinematic history by James Earl Jones, whose resonant baritone conveyed both regal authority and profound paternal warmth. Jones, who passed away on September 9, 2024, at the age of 93, had reprised the role in the 2019 photorealistic remake, ensuring his timbre became synonymous with the character. For Mufasa, The Lion King, the prequel exploring the titular lion's origins, Disney initially announced Jones's return in early 2024, a decision that honored the franchise's roots while bridging to a new narrative. However, Jones's death just months before the film's December 20, 2024, release necessitated a poignant pivot. Director Barry Jenkins, known for Moonlight and its intimate emotional depth, chose Aaron Pierre to voice the adult Mufasa, a casting that not only filled the void but amplified the story's themes of found family and destiny. Pierre, a British actor of Congolese and Rwandan heritage, brought a multifaceted intensity to the role, drawing from his breakout performances in HBO's The Underground Railroad and Netflix's Rebel Ridge. His casting was revealed in August 2021, positioning him as the young Mufasa who rises from an orphaned outsider to a kingly figure. In interviews, Pierre described the weight of succeeding Jones as rattling, admitting to sleepless nights studying archival footage of the original film. James Earl Jones's voice is like thunder, commanding yet comforting, Pierre told the Griot in December 2024. I didn't aim to imitate, I sought to honor by infusing Mufasa with the vulnerability of a survivor. Jenkins, who met Pierre during a workshop for emerging Black British talent, praised his raw emotional architecture, noting how Pierre's ability to layer grief and resolve mirrored the director's vision for a Mufasa unburdened by the original's mythic stature. Preparation for Pierre involved immersive vocal coaching under Disney's animation team, including sessions with dialect specialists to evoke a Pan-African resonance without caricature. He recorded in Los Angeles studios alongside motion capture performers, syncing his delivery to CGI lines that demanded nuanced physicality. A pivotal technique was vocal layering, where Pierre alternated between youthful exuberance for Mufasa's early adventures and a deepening gravitas as he claims his throne. In a YouTube interview with TIFF Rising Stars, Pierre revealed drawing from his own immigrant experiences, Mufasa's journey from the shadows to the light echoed my path from London stages to Hollywood. Critics lauded this authenticity. Deadline's voice cast guide highlighted Pierre's duet-ready timbre in songs like I Always Wanted a Brother, where his harmonies with Kelvin Harrison Jr. as Taka evoked fraternal bonds laced with foreshadowed tension. Reception post-release was overwhelmingly positive, with Pierre's performance earning a 6.6 IMDb rating boost from vocal enthusiasts. On Reddit's Lion King users called it a phenomenal one-two punch alongside Rebel Ridge, appreciating how Pierre avoided Jones's operatic boom for a more grounded roar. X, formerly Twitter, buzzed with tributes, one user noting, "Aaron Pierre didn't just voice Mufasa, he embodied the circle of life evolving." This casting choice underscored Jenkins's commitment to diverse storytelling, selecting Pierre not as a replacement but as an evolution, ensuring Mufasa's legacy roared into a new era. Kelvin Harrison Jr.'s nuanced portrayal of Taka and the Scar origin. Kelvin Harrison Jr., a New Orleans native whose chameleon-like range shone in waves in the trial of the Chicago 7, was cast as Taka the young, aristocratic lion who becomes the infamous Scar in a decision announced alongside Pierre's in 2021. Taka's arc in Mufasa, the Lion King, is the emotional core, transforming from a privileged prince harboring quiet insecurities to a figure scarred by betrayal and envy. Harrison's selection stemmed from his audition tape, a self-directed scene where he monologued Taka's internal conflict with the southern-inflected whisper that Jenkins described as hauntingly Shakespearean. In the Rap's December 2024 feature, Harrison detailed his process, listening obsessively to Jeremy Irons's silky malice from the 1994 Scar while infusing Taka with boyish charm to humanize the villain's genesis. Scar isn't born evil, he's forged in the fire of unmet expectations, Harrison explained, drawing parallels to his own roles exploring black masculinity under pressure. Recording sessions, held in Atlanta to accommodate his roots, involved improvisational duets with Pierre, where their off-script banter shaped Taka and Mufasa's brotherly rapport. Composer Lin-Manuel Miranda, who penned new tracks, collaborated closely, tweaking lyrics for Harrison's melodic vulnerability and the lion's share. Harrison's preparation extended beyond vocals. He shadowed big cat handlers at a South African sanctuary, studying lion pride dynamics to inform Taka's haughty posture in motion capture. Taka struts like he owns the savannah, but his eyes betray the fear, he told Refinery29, crediting Jenkins for encouraging layered menace over outright antagonism. This approach paid dividends. Revolt TV's interview with the cast emphasized how Harrison's evolution from ally to antagonist amplified themes of identity and legacy, resonating with audiences grappling with familial fractures. Post-release, Harrison's performance garnered acclaim for its subtlety. Reddit threads praised his outstanding precision in capturing Taka's emotional pivot, with one user stating, "Kelvin nailed the tragedy. Scar feels inevitable yet heartbreaking." On X, fans shared clips of his red carpet poise, likening it to Taka's regal facade. Disney's gamble on Harrison, a rising star over established names, enriched the prequel's exploration of villainy as a product of nurture, not nature, solidifying his status as a voice-acting force. John Connie's return as Rafiki, wisdom from stage to Savannah. John Connie, the Tony-winning South African legend behind The Island and Coon and the King, reprised his role as Rafiki from the 2019 The Lion King, infusing the mandrill shaman with even greater gravitas in Mufasa. Cast in 2018 for the remake, Connie's return was a no-brainer for Jenkins, who sought cultural authenticity in the film's African-inspired lore. Rafiki isn't just a narrator, he's the grit, the keeper of truths, Connie told YouTube's short-form series in December 2024, his Xhosa-inflected delivery evoking ancestral echoes. Connie's casting drew from his theatrical roots at 82 during production. He brought decades of anti-apartheid activism into Rafiki's philosophical monologues. In a Forbes Africa profile, Connie discussed adapting his stage presence for animation. "On stage, you command with body here, it's the voice that paints the circle of life." Sessions in Cape Town allowed him to incorporate Isaac Xhosa phrases, grounding Rafiki's visions in indigenous spirituality. Jenkins highlighted Connie's improv, like ad-libbing proverbs during Rafiki's dreams, a clip that went viral for its hypnotic rhythm. User reviews on IMDb singled out Connie as a good choice, praising how he truly brought the essence from the original. X-Posts celebrated his birthday in August 2025, tying it to Rafiki's enduring wisdom. Connie's dual role as actor and cultural consultant elevated the casting, making Rafiki a beacon of continuity amid the prequel's innovations. Tiffany Boone Sarabi, Strength in Silence and Song. Tiffany Boone, whose turn in the K showcased her fierce vulnerability, voiced Sarabi, Mufasa's steadfast mate and Simba's mother, expanding the character's prequel depth. Announced in 2022, Boone's casting aligned with Jenkins's push for empowered female voices. Her audition featuring a soulful rendition of a Miranda demo track that shook the room. For the director, Boone connected deeply with Sarabi's quiet resilience, telling Fox 2 Now, "She's the pride's anchor, mirroring my own journey as a black woman navigating Hollywood." Vocal training emphasized breath control for Sarabi's protective growls, with Boone drawing from jazz influences for harmonious scenes. In YouTube chats with Pierre and Harrison, she revealed bonding over shared outsider narratives. Critics in revolt noted Boone's elegant evolution, her performance adding layers to Sarabi's legacy. This choice highlighted Disney's evolving ensemble, blending Boone's rising star power with the film's epic scope. Blue Ivy Carter's debut as Kiara, generational harmony. Blue Ivy Carter, Beyoncé copyright's daughter, made her voice acting debut as young Kiara, Simba and Nala's daughter, in a casting that bridged franchise era. Revealed in 2023, it was a family affair, with Beyoncé copyright executive producing and voicing Nala. Blue Ivy's natural poise, honed from Renaissance tour stages, won over producers during a casual home recording. At 12 during filming, Blue Ivy channeled youthful curiosity into Kiara's inquisitive lines, telling TikTok's Access Atlanta, "It's like playing with my mom's stories, but as a lion cub." Coaching focused on innocence amid adventure. Her duet with Rankins and "I've Always Wanted a Brother" becoming a highlight. Fans adored the nepotism done right vibe, with the griot calling it fresh exploration. Clips of her red carpet glow amplified the buzz. Carter's entry symbolized the circle's renewal. Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner's comic relief, Pama and Timon Redux. Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner returned as Pama and Timon from 2019. Their improv-heavy chemistry a deliberate callback. Rogen's gravelly warmth and Eichner's manic energy were locked in early, with Jenkins encouraging ad-libs to lighten the prequel's drama. In a YouTube interview, Rogen joked, "We're the Greek chorus with Goss eternal comic foils." Recording in Vancouver for Rogen, they riffed on Hakuna Matata origins, Eichner's Broadway flair shining in musical numbers. Instagram Reels captured their event banter, endearing fans. Reviews hailed their joyful disruption. Per IMDb, Mads Mikkelsen as Kuros, villainous intrigue from Denmark. Mads Mikkelsen, the Hannibal and Casino Royale icon, voiced Kuros, a tyrannical white lion antagonist, adding Euro-chic menace. Cast in 2022 for his predatory elegance, Mikkelsen's Danish lilt twisted into chilling purr during London sessions. Kuros' ambition unchecked a familiar territory, he told Deadline. His preparation involved wildlife documentaries, layering sarcasm over snarls. Event photos showcased his charisma. Critics praised the icily compelling foil to Mufasa. Thandai Newton's maternal depth and cultural resonance. Thandai Newton voiced Taka's mother, bringing Westworld nuance to a nurturing yet tragic figure. Her 2023 casting emphasized maternal complexity, with Newton infusing British Zimbabwean cadences. In Revolt, she discussed honoring African matriarchs. Sessions explored grief's timbre, her chemistry with Keith David as Masco sparking paternal sparks. Reception noted her heart-wrenching subtlety. Keith David's Masco, gravitas in the pride. Keith David, The Princess and the Frog's Dr. Faslier, voiced Masco, Esh's mate, his bass adding authoritative warmth. Cast for his versatility, David's prep included gospel influences for ensemble songs. Masco's the unsung pillar, he shared in cast interviews. His performance grounded family dynamics, earning nods for soulful depth. Barry Jenkins as young Mufasa, youthful promise. Young Mufasa fell to newcomer Barry Jenkins, whose debut at 10 captured cub-like wonder. Selected from Atlanta Open Calls, Rankins's energy meshed with Pierre's adult takes. In Deadline, his duet was spotlighted. Coaching built confidence, his innocence contrasting future kinship. Fans on X cherished the adorable link, supporting voices, Theo Samalu, Preston Nyman, and Kajazolediga. Theo Samalu voiced young Taka, his childlike mischief pairing with Rankins for brotherly duets. Preston Nyman as Zazu brought avian wit, while Kajazalediga's young mandrill added whimsy. These choices, Performs Africa, celebrated South African talent Lin-Manuel Miranda's musical casting influence. Though not an actor, Miranda's songs shaped vocal demands, collaborating on pitch-perfect fits. His YouTube insights revealed tailoring for Pierre's range. Barry Jenkins' directorial vision in casting Jenkins's eye for emotional truth guided selections, blending Broadway vets with film risers. Interviews underscored his chemistry. Auditions, reception and cultural impact of the ensemble. The cast's synergy propelled box office success, with tributes to Jones underscoring legacy. Diverse voices amplified global resonance, from Reddit raves to TikTok clips. Mufasa, The Lion King, a comprehensive analysis. Production development and pre-production. The journey of Mufasa, The Lion King began in September 2020 when Walt Disney Pictures officially announced that a follow-up film to the photorealistic computer-animated The Lion King, 2019, was entering development. In September 2020, it was announced that a follow-up film to the live-action styled CGI photorealistic 2019 remake of The Lion King, 1994, was in development, directed by Barry Jenkins. This marked a significant departure for Jenkins, known for his intimate, character-driven dramas like Moonlight, 2016, and If Beale Street Could Talk, 2018, as it represented his entry into blockbuster filmmaking. It is his fourth feature directorial role and first in blockbuster filmmaking. The choice of Jenkins as director was both surprising and intriguing to industry observers, as it paired an Academy Award-winning filmmaker known for deeply personal storytelling with one of Disney's most commercially successful franchises. The project's structure was conceived as a unique narrative approach, comparing the structure to that of The Godfather Part 2, 1974, with the film serving as both the prequel exploring Mufasa's formative years and featuring scenes that would occur after the events of the first film. This dual timeline approach would allow the filmmakers to explore the origins of the beloved character while also expanding the contemporary story. Screenwriter Jeff Nathanson, who had worked on the 2019 remake, was brought back to craft the screenplay. By this point, Jeff Nathanson, the previous installment's screenwriter, had completed a draft of the script. The development process was methodical, with the script undergoing multiple revisions to ensure it would honor the legacy of the original while offering fresh perspectives on familiar characters. The film's official announcement came during the 2022 D23 Expo, where Disney revealed the title Mufasa, The Lion King, and provided the first glimpse of what audiences could expect. The film was officially announced, with the title of Mufasa, The Lion King, at the 2022 D23 Expo. This announcement generated considerable excitement and speculation about how the film would differentiate itself from its predecessor while maintaining the emotional resonance that made The Lion King such an enduring story. One of the key narrative decisions made during development was the inclusion of Kiara, Simba and Nala's daughter, making her first appearance in a theatrical animated feature since The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, 1998. On December 13, 2023, The Hollywood Handle reported that the plot would involve Rafiki telling the story of Mufasa to his granddaughter, Kiara, marking the character's first on-screen appearance in an animated feature film since The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, 1998. This framing device would allow the film to explore themes of legacy in storytelling while providing a natural way to present Mufasa's origin story. Jenkins was careful to clarify the film's relationship to existing Lion King canon, particularly regarding The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. Regarding any adaptation from Simba's Pride, Jenkins stated that some stuff from the canon is very much alluded and referenced, but it is not an adaptation. This approach allowed the filmmakers creative freedom while respecting the broader Lion King mythology that fans cherished. The casting process began with the crucial roles of young Mufasa and Scar. In August 2021, Aaron Pierre and Kelvin Harrison Jr. were cast as the voices of young Mufasa and Scar, respectively. The selection of Pierre and Harrison Jr. was particularly significant, as they would need to embody these iconic characters while bringing their own interpretations to the roles. Harrison Jr. provided insight into his approach to voicing Scar during the film's promotional campaign. During an interview with Fandango in April 2023 about his film Chevalier, 2022, Harrison confirmed that the film would explore Scar's backstory, portraying him in a hilarious and very spicy way and expressing interest in how the young and sweet Scar's relationship with his brother Mufasa evolves throughout the film. This indicated that the film would present Scar in a more sympathetic light initially, showing his transformation from a loving brother to the villain audiences knew from the original story. Aaron Pierre also reflected on how his other acting experiences informed his approach to Mufasa. Speaking with comicbook.com in August 2024, Pierre described how his role as Terry Richmond and his work with Jeremy Saulnier in Rebel Ridge, 2024, offered him, like most of his projects, the opportunity to internalize lessons from the work and characters so as to move forward with his role as Mufasa, saying that previous life experiences informed his future ones. The decision to bring back key voice actors from the 2019 film was crucial for maintaining continuity. By September 2022, it was revealed that Seth Rogen, Billy Eichner, and John Connie would reprise their roles as Pumbaa, Timon, and Rafiki, respectively. These returning performers would provide familiar voices for audiences while serving as narrators and commentators on Mufasa's story. The most high-profile casting announcement came in April 2024, when Disney confirmed the return of major stars and revealed significant new additions to the cast. In April 2024, Beyoncé copyright Knowles Carter and Donald Glover were confirmed to reprise their roles, with Blue Ivy Carter, in her feature film debut, Tiffany Boone, Kaja Zolediga, Preston Nyman, Mads Mikkelsen, Thandai Newton, Lenny James, Anna Kanani Rose, Keith David, Bray Ellen Rankins, Theo Samalu, Fole Kaloa Foiku, Joanna Jones, Thusum Baidu, Sheila Atim, Abdul Salis, and Dominique Jennings announced as new additions to the cast. The casting of Blue Ivy Carter as Kyra was particularly noteworthy, marking her feature film debut. Jenkins explained his reasoning for this choice. Jenkins considered casting Blue Ivy as Kyra since he heard the audiobook version she did for his friend Matthew H. Aries' Hair Love, 2019, short film, but had reservations on whether she and her mother would want to act opposite each other, fearing it may hit too close to home. However, both Blue Ivy and Beyoncé copyright were enthusiastic when he proposed the idea to them. Coupled with Beyoncé copyright's Renaissance World Tour, during which Blue Ivy danced to one of The Lion King, The Gift, 2019, album songs, Jenkins said there was synergy between mother and daughter with the film showcasing a type of time capsule filming unlike traditional live-action films. Mufasa, The Lion King utilized cutting-edge photorealistic computer animation technology, similar to its 2019 predecessor. The filming process involved sophisticated motion capture techniques and virtual cinematography, allowing Jenkins and his team to create what appeared to be real animals in naturalistic environments. In September 2022, at the D23 Expo in Anaheim, California, early footage was shown exclusively to attendees for the first time, thus revealing that production was already underway. This early footage demonstrated the advanced state of the animation technology and provided the first glimpse of how Jenkins was adapting his directorial style to this new medium. The visual effects were once again handled by Moving Picture Company, MPC, the same studio that had worked on the 2019 film. Moving Picture Company returned to provide the visual effects. This continuity ensured that the visual style would remain consistent with the previous film while allowing for technological improvements and Jenkins' unique artistic vision. The production process faced significant challenges in July 2023 when the SAG-AFTRA strike impacted Hollywood. In July 2023, production on the film slowed down due to the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike. This work stoppage affected the voice recording sessions and other aspects of production, leading to delays in the film's completion and ultimately affecting its release schedule. Jenkins approached the virtual filmmaking process with the same attention to character and emotion that had characterized his previous work. He worked closely with the voice actors to capture not just their vocal performances but also their emotional nuances, which could then be translated into the photorealistic animal characters through advanced animation techniques. The film's production also involved extensive collaboration between Jenkins, the animation teams, and the voice cast to ensure that the performances felt authentic and emotionally resonant. The challenge was to create believable animal characters that could convey complex human emotions while maintaining the naturalistic appearance that had defined the 2019 film. Post-production. The post-production phase of Mufasa, The Lion King was extensive and complex, involving months of refinement to the animation, visual effects, and sound design. The film's photorealistic animation required meticulous attention to detail, with animators working to ensure that every hair, whisker, and facial expression appeared natural while still conveying the necessary emotional beats of the story. The integration of the voice performances with the animated characters was a crucial aspect of post-production. The team had to seamlessly blend the vocal performances with the animal movements and expressions, creating the illusion that these realistic-looking animals were actually speaking and singing. Color grading and visual effects refinement continued throughout post-production, with Jenkins and his team working to create environments that felt both fantastical and grounded in reality. The film's various locations, from the Pride Lands to the Mythical Mile, required different visual approaches while maintaining overall consistency. The sound design process was equally important, involving the creation of realistic animal sounds, environmental audio, and the integration of the film's musical numbers. The team worked to create an immersive audio landscape that would transport audiences into the world of the film. The editing process involved not just traditional film editing but also the refinement of timing and pacing in the animated sequences. Every movement and expression had to be carefully calibrated to serve the story's emotional needs while maintaining the naturalistic appearance of the characters. Music. The musical landscape of Mufasa, The Lion King underwent several significant changes during its development, reflecting the complex nature of creating a worthy successor to one of Disney's most beloved musical films. The evolution of the film's musical team demonstrates the challenges and considerations involved in crafting songs that could stand alongside classics like Circle of Life and Can You Feel the Love Tonight. Initially, the film was set to feature a collaboration between several high-profile composers. By June 2022, Nicholas Britell was set to compose the score for the film, having previously collaborated with Jenkins on various projects. Britell, known for his work on Moonlight, If Beale Street Could Talk, and The White Lotus, seemed like a natural choice given his previous successful collaborations with Jenkins. The musical team expanded in September with the addition of two major figures from the original Lion King remake. He was joined by Hans Zimmer and Pharrell Williams in September, returning from the 2019 film. Zimmer, the legendary composer behind the scores for both the 1994 original and 2019 remake, brought continuity and gravitas to the project, while Pharrell Williams added contemporary musical sensibilities. However, the musical direction took a significant turn in April 2024 with the announcement of Lin-Manuel Miranda as the film's songwriter. In April 2024, it was announced that Lin-Manuel Miranda would write the songs for the film. Miranda, the creative force behind Miranda, ample time to craft songs that would serve the story while potentially achieving the memorable quality of the original Lion King's music. The collaborative approach to the film's music extended beyond just Miranda's songwriting. Mark Mancina was to co-produce the songs with Miranda, with Label M providing additional vocals and performances. Label M's involvement was particularly significant, as he had been a crucial contributor to the authentic African sound of both the original 1994 film and the 2019 remake. Despite the initial high-profile musical team, the final composition credits underwent significant changes. In September 2024, Dave Metzger was announced to be composing the film's score, with Zimmer, Prequel, and Williams said to have dropped out prior to production. While Metzger received sole credit for the score, Zimmer's themes from the previous films were reused in Metzger's score, such as Under the Stars and King of Pride Rock. The retention of Zimmer's thematic material ensured musical continuity with the previous films while allowing Metzger to bring his own interpretation to the score. Zimmer is additionally credited for the track And So It's Time. Additionally, 4 of Prequel's themes for the film were included, all of which he composed with Label M. The musical preview process began at the 2024 D23 Expo, where audiences got their first taste of Miranda's songwriting for the film. The presentation also premiered I Always Wanted a Brother, one of the songs Miranda wrote for the film. This song, focusing on the relationships between Mufasa and Contatc, demonstrated Miranda's approach to character development through music. Miranda appeared in person at D23 for the first time with Jenkins to personally present the trailer. This public appearance underscored the importance of the musical component to the film's overall success and allowed Miranda to explain his creative approach to the Lion King universe. The integration of classic Lion King musical elements with new compositions required careful balance. The trailer's music track was bookended by a new instrumental rendition of Circle of Life, confirming that some musical material by Elton John and Tim Rice from the previous film would be featured in the film in some way. This approach honored the musical legacy while providing space for new creative expressions. Critical reception of Miranda's musical contributions would later become a point of discussion among reviewers, with opinions varying on how successfully the new songs captured the magic of the original Lion King's memorable musical moments. The challenge of creating songs that could stand alongside Hakuna Matata, Be Prepared, and Can You Feel the Love Tonight proved to be one of the film's most scrutinized aspects. Release theatrical. The theatrical release strategy for Mufasa, The Lion King reflected Disney's confidence in the franchise while navigating the complexities of a changing entertainment landscape. The film's journey to theaters involved multiple scheduling adjustments and strategic positioning within Disney's broader release calendar. The film's premiere took place at one of Hollywood's most prestigious venues. Mufasa, The Lion King's world premiere took place at the Dolby Theatre in Los Angeles on December 9, 2024. The Dolby Theatre, home to the Academy Awards, provided an appropriately grand setting for the debut of this highly anticipated sequel, Prequel, and was released in the United States on December 20, 2024. The December 20 release date positioned the film strategically for the holiday season, traditionally one of the most lucrative periods for family entertainment. This timing allowed the film to capitalize on school winter breaks and holiday movie-going traditions. However, the path to this release date involved significant challenges and adjustments. It was previously scheduled for release on July 5, 2024, but was delayed to its current date due to the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike. The strike, which lasted from July to November 2023, significantly impacted Hollywood production schedules, forcing Disney and other studios to reassess their release calendars. The delay from summer to winter represented more than just a scheduling adjustment. It reflected a strategic recalculation of the film's market positioning. A July release would have positioned Mufasa as a summer tentpole film, competing with other major blockbusters for audience attention. That December release instead placed it in the prestigious holiday corridor, where Disney has historically found success with family-friendly content. Disney's marketing campaign built momentum throughout 2024, with carefully orchestrated reveals and promotional events. The first major public preview occurred at CinemaCon in April 2024, where Jenkins personally presented footage to theater owners and industry professionals. Barry Jenkins also appeared when Walt Disney Studios presented its 2024 theatrical slate at CinemaCon on April 11, 2024, to promote the film, where he remarked, "You are probably wondering, what is the director of Moonlight doing talking to me about an 8-quadrant tentpole legacy IP massive film? And I gotta say, the thought was very strange to me at first, as well. But oh my god, it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life." and I'm so glad I made this picture." The first public trailer launch was strategically timed and placed. The first teaser trailer and the official teaser poster, featuring young Mufasa with his adult counterpart reflected in a puddle in front of him, debuted on April 29, 2024. On ABC's Good Morning America. This media placement ensured maximum visibility during morning television's peak audience period. The trailer's reception was mixed, generating both excitement and skepticism from audiences and critics. The trailer received a mixed reception, with some deeming the film as unnecessary and a soulless prequel to a soulless remake. These criticisms reflected broader concerns about Disney's approach to remaking and expanding its classic animated properties. Jenkins responded directly to these criticisms, defending the artistic and emotional value of the Lion King franchise. Jenkins responded on Twitter writing, "There is nothing soulless about The Lion King. For decades children have sat in theaters all over the world experiencing collective grief for the first time, engaging Shakespeare for the first time, across aisles in myriad languages, a most potent vessel for communal empathy." The marketing campaign continued with additional trailer releases and promotional events. The official full trailer for the film premiered during the Disney Entertainment Showcase at the 2024 D23 Expo on August 10, 2024, alongside a variant on the first poster with Taka and his future adult counterpart of Scar reflected in the puddle. The final promotional push included international expansion. The final trailer was unveiled at D23 Brazil on November 8, 2024, alongside a new poster featuring Mufasa, Taka, Rafiki, Zazu, Timon, Pumbaa, and Kiara. Earlier that day, Tiffany Boone and Calvin Harrison Jr. appeared on Good Morning America to discuss the film and share a sneak peek of the trailer. Home media. Disney's home media strategy for Mufasa, The Lion King followed the studio's established pattern of multi-platform release, designed to maximize revenue streams while providing audiences with multiple viewing options. The home media rollout reflects the current entertainment landscape where theatrical, digital, and streaming releases are carefully coordinated. Mufasa, The Lion King was released for digital download on February 18, 2025, set to be released on Disney Plus on March 26, 2025, and will be released on 4K Ultra HD, Blu-ray and DVD on April 1. The digital download release on February 18, 2025, came approximately 2 months after the film's theatrical debut, representing a relatively short theatrical window. This timing reflects the modern entertainment industry's accelerated release schedules, particularly for family films where home viewing has become increasingly important. The Disney Plus release on March 26, 2025, strategically positioned the film on Disney's flagship streaming service during the spring period, potentially capturing audiences during school spring breaks and providing content for Disney Plus subscribers. The streaming release also allows the film to reach international audiences who may not have had theatrical access. The physical media release on April 1, 2025, includes multiple formats to serve different consumer preferences and technology capabilities. The 4K Ultra HD option caters to home theater enthusiasts seeking the highest possible picture and sound quality, while Blu-ray provides excellent quality for mainstream consumers. The inclusion of DVD ensures accessibility for households that may not have upgraded to newer technologies. This multi-tiered release strategy allows Disney to capture revenue from different consumer segments while extending the film's commercial life beyond its theatrical run. The physical media releases typically include extensive bonus features, behind-the-scenes content, and other materials that provide additional value for consumers and insight into the filmmaking process. Reception. Box office. The box office performance of Mufasa, The Lion King tells a complex story of audience reception, market dynamics, and the challenges facing even well-established franchises in the contemporary entertainment landscape. The film's financial journey provides insight into the current state of theatrical exhibition and audience preferences for franchise content. As of March 17, 2025, Mufasa, The Lion King has grossed $252.6 million in the United States and Canada, and $464.2 million in other territories, for a worldwide gross of $716.8 million. While this represents a substantial sum, the performance must be evaluated in context of the film's production budget and the commercial expectations for a Lion King sequel. The film's production cost was significant, reflecting the expensive nature of photorealistic animation. The prequel carries a hefty budget north of $200 million, so Disney needs Mufasa to be the main movie-going event through the new year to justify that price tag. With the budget exceeding $200 million, the film needed to perform exceptionally well to be considered a financial success. The opening weekend performance set the tone for the film's theatrical run. In the United States and Canada, Mufasa, The Lion King was released alongside Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and was originally projected to gross around $50 million from 4,100 theaters in its opening weekend. However, the actual results fell short of these projections. After making $13.3 million on its first day, including $3.3 million from Thursday night previews, weekend estimates were lowered to $38 million. The lower-than-expected opening day performance forced industry analysts to revise their weekend projections downward, indicating weaker audience interest than anticipated. It went on to debut to $35.4 million, finishing second behind Sonic the Hedgehog 3. The second-place finish behind Sonic the Hedgehog 3 represented a disappointing start for such a high-profile franchise entry. The comparison to a video game adaptation sequel highlighted the challenges faced by The Lion King prequel in capturing audience enthusiasm. Despite the modest opening, the film demonstrated staying power during the holiday season. In its second weekend, the film retained second place, grossing $36.8 million. The relatively small drop from the opening weekend suggested that word-of-mouth and holiday movie-going patterns were supporting the film's performance. The film's fortunes improved in its third week. In its third weekend, it replaced Sonic the Hedgehog 3 at first position at the domestic box office, crossing the $150 million mark. This ascension to the top position demonstrated the film's ability to build audience over time, particularly during the extended holiday period. The film's continued success into the new year proved significant. In its fifth weekend, the film outperformed newcomers Wolfman and One of Them Days to finish first at the box office over the four-day MLK weekend. This performance during Martin Luther King Jr. weekend showed the film's ongoing appeal and the lack of strong competition from new releases. Industry analysts attributed the film's sustained performance to specific factors. The New York Times attributed the movie's long-term box office success to less competition from other theater releases and the social media popularity of the movie's songs. The viral nature of the film's musical numbers on social media platforms helped maintain public interest and drive additional theatrical visits. International performance provided crucial support for the film's overall commercial success. In the United Kingdom and Ireland, the film made £4.4 million, $6 million in its opening weekend. While respectable, this performance reflected similar patterns seen in the domestic market. The film found particular success in certain international territories. In India, the film has made more than a superscript 130 crore $15 million within 2 weeks of its release. The Indian market's strong response demonstrated the global appeal of the Lion King franchise, particularly in territories where Disney content has been growing in popularity. The film's box office trajectory illustrated the challenges facing even well-established franchises in the current theatrical environment. While the $716.8 million worldwide gross represents substantial revenue, it falls short of the commercial performance achieved by the 2019 Lion King remake, which earned over $1.6 billion globally. Critical response. The critical reception of Mufasa, The Lion King revealed a film that generated mixed reactions from professional reviewers, reflecting broader tensions between artistic ambition, technological innovation, and franchise expectations. The film's reception illuminated ongoing debates about Disney's approach to remaking and expanding its classic properties. On the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, 57% of 213 critics' reviews are positive, with an average rating of 5. 8/10. This mixed rating placed the film in a middle ground between outright critical rejection and enthusiastic endorsement, suggesting that while many critics found elements to appreciate, few were wholly convinced by the final product. The website's consensus reads, Barry Jenkins' deft hand and Lin-Manuel Miranda's music go some way towards squaring the circle of life in Mufasa, but this fitfully soulful story is ill-served by its impersonal, photorealistic animation style. This consensus captures the central tension many critics identified between the film's artistic aspirations and its technical approach. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 56 out of 100. Based on 51 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. The Metacritic score aligned closely with Rotten Tomatoes, confirming the generally lukewarm critical reception. Audience reception proved somewhat more favorable than critical response. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of an A+ to F scale, while those polled by PostTrak gave it an 85% positive score. This disparity between critical and audience reception is not uncommon for family films, particularly those connected to beloved franchises. Critics frequently praise the film's animation as an improvement over its predecessor. Several publications said the film's animation was an improvement over the 2019 Lion King remake. This technical advancement was acknowledged even by critics who had other reservations about the film. Matt Zoller sites of RogerRabbit.com provided one of the more positive critical assessments. Matt Zoller sites of RogerRabbit.com gave the film 3+182 stars out of 4, writing it is a technological step up from the remake, in which it finds new ways to make the creatures expressive and emotionally available to us while also somehow convincing us that they are indeed animals, whose every talon, whisker, and hair seems as real as imagery in a nature documentary. Entertainment Weekly's review reflected more mixed sentiments about the animation improvements. Maureen Lee Lenker for Entertainment Weekly wrote the animation was more compelling than the stagnant energy of Favreau's The Lion King, but at times, it feels almost frenzied, as if Jenkins is desperate to prove he can do something interesting with the material. The Times provided one of the film's most enthusiastic reviews. In a 5-star review, The Times's Kevin Marr praised the film's ending as a special effects extravaganza that's thankfully free from the incoherence that dogged Jon Favreau's Lion King remake in 2019. Jenkins instead keeps everything focused on the drama, the pain of broken fraternal bonds, and families destroyed and rebuilt. However, other critics were less impressed with the overall execution. Bill Jabiri of Vulture said Mufasa, The Lion King looks impressive on a technical level, but it makes even less of an impression than its 2019 predecessor. Yes, it will surely make truckloads of money. Artistically speaking, it feels like an enormous wasted opportunity, especially given the talent involved. The AV Club's review highlighted specific narrative choices while acknowledging improvements. In the AV Club, Ignata Vaishnavytsky called the film an improvement over the 2019 remake, though noted that making Mufasa and Scar something other than blood relations is a retcon, though it at least explains why they have different accents. Critical discussion of the screenplay revealed significant concerns about narrative structure and pacing. Peter Debreuge of Variety criticized Timon and Pumbaa's comedic interruptions, writing they make strangely self-aware cracks about corporate lawyers, script notes and a certain hit song they assume everyone's sick of by now. Overall, he said the narrative approach was like a mistake, serving mostly to delay and interrupt the main attraction, which is Mufasa's origin story. Entertainment Weekly echoed concerns about over-explanation and unnecessary backstory. Entertainment Weekly called Jeff Nathanson's script lackluster and said the film tried too hard to over-explain Simba's world. Not everything needs a backstory, a lesson that Disney could use right about now. The Hollywood Reporter identified pacing issues as a central problem. Lavia Gyark of The Hollywood Reporter said the film's pacing becomes choppier and less coherent. Part of that can be attributed to an overstuffed narrative. Nathanson plumps the story with platitudes and moments that could lead to Well, more franchising. Critical reception of Lin-Manuel Miranda's songs proved particularly divided. David Fear of Rolling Stone wrote, "There's nothing near as earworm level as Hakuna Matata or majestically overwhelming as Elton John's original songs, but that Miranda's compositions served more like he's bending over backwards to complement those earlier karaoke staples." Similar concerns about the song's memorability appeared in other reviews. Similarly, Amy Nicholson of the Los Angeles Times wrote, "It's hard to call any Mufasa. The Lion King suffers from an acute case of prequelitis, a cinematic malady in which a film inspired by and set before a massive blockbuster feels an irresistible compulsion to explain every single aspect of its predecessor, not just the important characters and story points, but superfluous details that no one cared about in the first place." Filling in Mufasa's tortured history before The Lion King could potentially be interesting. But did anyone really wonder where Rafiki got his cane? Or how they met Zazu the bird? Or why Pride Rock looks the way it does? Why does a rock need a backstory? While Mufasa dwells on these sorts of irrelevant details, its larger questions go unanswered. Most fundamentally, why did Barry Jenkins, one of our greatest directors, decide to make a prequel to Jon Favreau's live-action Lion King, which featured eerily realistic but frozen-faced animals? Whatever his reasons, they're not apparent in the finished movie. I find it hard to believe anyone could look at Mufasa sans credits or context and identify it as a Barry Jenkins film. It is just another cog in the Disney live-action, or live-action, remake machine. And not particularly engaging one at that. A frame story set after the events of The Lion King sets up the main plot as a feature-length flashback, while Nala, Beyoncé tilde copyright, gives birth to her second cub with Simba, Donald Glover, wise mandrill Rafiki, John Kani, and second Bonana's Timon, Billy Eichner, and Pama, Seth Rogen, watch over their daughter Kiara, Blue Ivy Carter. When Kiara gets scared by a nasty thunderstorm, Rafiki tells her a story as a distraction. From there, Don't Tell Mom, the babysitter's American morphs into the origin of Kiara's grandfather Mufasa, who was voiced by the late, great James Earl Jones in both prior big-screen Lion King features. Mufasa begins with a dedication to Jones, who passed away in September at the age of 93. The young Mufasa, Aaron Pierre, was not born of royal blood. As a cub, he got separated from his parents in a terrible, and conveniently sudden, flood, then was rescued from drowning by another young lion, a prince named Taka, Kelvin Harrison Jr., who is so eager for a brother that he helps Mufasa earn a place in his family over the objections of his stern father Obasi, Lenny James, who distrusts outsiders. When Taka's home comes under attack from a group of white lions led by the power-hungry, and also the I like to eat other animals kind of hungry, Kuros, Mads Mikkelsen, never more typecast, the brothers must set off together on a journey to the mythical land of Mile, a utopian paradise where all animals live in harmony. They're joined along the way by a ragtag group of other outcasts, who must learn to work together before Kuros and his followers hunt them down. If that plot sounds familiar, you might have already seen Disney's other big fall 2024 movie, Moana 2, another animated musical about a band of misfits who have to figure out how to coexist in order to defeat an overwhelming evil and reach a fabled location where they can possibly rebuild their crumbling society. Both movies also push the same vague message about accepting those who are different and building inclusive communities, minus the lions who, want to eat everyone. Unfortunately, the two films share another thing in common: forgettable songs that never come close to matching the musical heights of either Moana or The Lion King. Curiously, the big member of the first Moana's creative team who skipped its sequel, songwriter Lin-Manuel Miranda, instead wrote the songs for Mufasa. His work here, with the possible exception of the catchy We Go Together, sounds like discarded B-sides. The music is recognizably his, but not especially catchy or memorable, especially by the standards he set for himself in his previous work on Broadway or for Disney. At least the character animation in Jenkins' Mufasa is a little better than in Favreau's The Lion King, where the various members of the animal kingdom poured their hearts out and sung while their fuzzy digital faces maintained the same placid, dead-eyed expression. This time, The characters' looks match their voices and their emotions better. It's clear when Taka's giddy with joy or seething with jealousy. You could put Mufasa on mute and have a reasonable idea of what the heroes and villains are feeling at any moment, something you really couldn't say about The Lion King, 2019. Still, that doesn't change the fundamental issue, that this fictional universe was designed to be inhabited by hand-drawn, highly stylized Disney characters with exaggerated emotions and gestures. When you populate it with quasi-realistic animals, they can't do anything too obviously anthropomorphic, the way Disney animated heroes so often can undo in their classic films, lest you break the illusion. Instead, the characters in Mufasa just walk around constantly, and Jenkins' camera swoops and circles around them in this perpetual state of manic motion. The sheer amount of kinetic energy on display might keep young ones from getting too bored across Mufasa's 2-hour runtime, but it doesn't fully disguise the incredibly monotonous structure of wandering around the uncanny valley on the way to Mile, with an occasional song or cat fight thrown in every couple of minutes. Turning Mufasa's rise to power into its own movie makes sense, although doing it in this style, and with so much brackitis about less essential elements of the Lion King mythos, still seems like a strange choice to me. As does Jenkins' involvement in general. Maybe the appeal of playing in that sandbox, and with Disney's bottom-loose checkbook, was too hard for Jenkins to resist. Or maybe his work on Mufasa is one of the purest expressions of the true circle of life in Hollywood. You do one for them, then you do one for yourself. Either way, I'm confident the one he makes for himself next will be better than this. Additional thoughts. Beyoncé copyright receives and Beyoncé copyright Knowles Carter credit on screen in the closing titles. If my math is correct, she has 2 lines of dialogue. Her character is and maybe 4 shots. Not 4 scenes, 4 shots. Surely no one has ever done less in a movie and received and billing in the credits. What can you say? It's good to be the queen. It's been a big year for Disney, bouncing back from last year's string of box office bombs with some of their biggest hits in recent memory, ranging from an adorable Pixar sequel to an R-rated Marvel movie. It seems that the House of Mouse has the golden touch once again, but there's one more big event left. Mufasa, The Lion King, the prequel to the 2019 CGI do not call it live-action remake of the 1994 animated classic, is Disney's main event for the holiday season. The film begins with Simba, Donald Glover, Solo, A Star Wars Story, Atlanta, and Nala, recording superstar Beyoncé copyright Knowles Carter, Asking Time in the Market, Billy Eichner, Brothers, and Pumbaa the Warthog, Seth Rogen, Pineapple Express, The Fabelmans, as well as the mandrill Rafiki, John Connie, Black Panther, to watch of their cub, Kiara, Blue Ivy Carter, while they go off to take care of some important business. To pass the time, Rafiki tells Kiara the story of her grandfather. The story begins with Mufasa as a lonely orphaned cub, wandering aimlessly until he meets Taka, a lion from a royal bloodline. When they are grown, the lives of Mufasa, Aaron Pierre, the Underground Railroad, Foe, and Taka, Kelvin Harrison, Jr., Chevalier, take a dramatic turn when a pride of white lions attacks. Known as the Outsiders, they are led by the fierce Kuros, Mads Mikkelsen, Casino Royale. Another round. In the ensuing battle, Mufasa kills Kuro's son while defending the pride. In order to protect the royal bloodline, Obasi, king of the pride and Taka's father, orders Mufasa and Taka to flee together. These self-proclaimed brothers embark on a perilous journey, meeting a young Rafiki, Kajazolediga, Bunny Chow, and a lioness named Sarabi, Tiffany Boone, the Midnight Sky, and setting off in search of Mile, a utopian land where they hope to find safety and build a new kingdom. The 2019 version of The Lion King was a dazzling display of photorealistic effects wizardry, but it was completely redundant and lacking the lovable charm of the original. While Mufasa earns some goodwill by giving us a story that we haven't seen before, it's hardly the elegant legend laced with Shakespearean overtones that the original gave us. It's a convoluted, and at times rather confusing, dark drama that tells a gloomy villain origin story, while frequently cutting away to Timon and Pumbaa making meta jokes about Disney. The awkward narrative made me think of Mystery Science Theater 3000 and the interludes of intentionally hokey comedy on board the space station. Director Barry Jenkins, Moonlight, If Beale Street Could Talk, is known for heavy drama, and those are the sequences where he's most at home here. It often feels like Jenkins and Disney are on different pages as to what kind of movie they wanted to make, which may account for why the songs by Lin-Manuel Miranda of Hamilton fame seem so awkward and tentative much of the time. Miranda seems out of his depth, unsure whether he's supposed to imitate Elton John or create something distinctly new, and he's drowning much of the time. The songs range from the workable if forgettable romantic duet Tell Me It's You, sung by Mufasa and Scar, to the embarrassingly dreadful villain theme, Bye Bye, and they rarely capture even a glimmer of the charm, creativity and energy we expect from the brilliant, award-winning composer. As weak as the Moana 2 songs were without Miranda, Mufasa gives us even worse ones right from the source. As an admirer of Miranda's work, I hope his next project is far less ill-conceived and more well-suited to his incredible talents. Pierre and Harrison are powerhouse actors with great voices, and Harrison even has experience trying to elevate weak songs in Cyrano, which made these limp and lifeless tunes sound like magnificent showstoppers by comparison. They bring as much nuance as they can to these character voices, though the problem we saw in the Left film still stands. These lifelike lines can't convey nearly as much range of emotions as their more humanized hand-drawn counterparts. Mikkelsen can play an imposing villain in his sleep, and seems to be doing so here, and Lediga is wonderful as the young Rafiki. In fact, the Mufasa Rafiki backstory is better than the one at the center of the film. Eichner and Rogen wear out their welcome fast, simply doing Targe stick and Disney advertisements. And while I've been a Timon and Pumbaa fan since day one, I frankly found myself wishing that they weren't in this movie at all. It may sound like I hated Mufasa, the Lion King, yet that's hardly the case. It has a lot of good performances and strong events, and stalwart fans of the stally including me will likely find that enough of it works to make it worth seeing, though likely not multiple times. The movie is too intense for very young children, though ages 8 and above should be engrossed by it. I'm not willing to dismiss it completely, because there's some wonderful elements here, yet there's too much that just doesn't work to give it an enthusiastic endorsement. In the great circle of life, Mufasa is a frustratingly dizzying experience. Patrick Gibbs. Like many of you, I was ready to deride Barry Jenkins for selling out after accepting the gig of helming the prequel to one of the most soulless and unimaginative remakes ever made in Mufasa, The Lion King. Walking into the theater to witness this would-be catastrophe in IMAX 3D, I couldn't wrap my head around why Jenkins wanted to subject himself to the soul-crushing Disney machine and bring such a story to life apart from quickly making millions of dollars to finance his future independent projects. To be honest, one can't fault Jenkins for wanting the bag, especially considering how he longed to make his mark in cinema before winning an Academy Award for his work in 2016's Moonlight. And if you were in the same position as him, where endless opportunities to make money beyond your wildest dreams after winning an Oscar would suddenly pop up, you'd likely do the same. Of course, Jenkins could have chosen something more fulfilling in the world of big-budget filmmaking, an action, fantasy production, a Marvel movie, or even doing what many indie filmmakers are doing nowadays, such as Lee Isaac Chung, Kogonada, The Daniels, and David Lowery, helming several episodes of Star Wars Disney Plus television series. But he picked Mufasa, The Lion King, which seems like an impossible task to turn the folklore world of Pride Rock into something good, let alone decent. Jon Favreau's 2019 photorealistic remake of Ron Clements and John Musker's 1994 animated classic is one of the worst movies to have ever come out of the Disney live-action remake mandate. It is so bereft of any artistic value that one wonders why it even made more than $1 billion at the global box office. It offers absolutely nothing for the audience, who could have stayed home and watched one of the greatest animated movies made in the Renaissance era instead. The original Lion King stands the test of time as a nourishing, artistically staggering piece of work that isn't afraid to get to dark places. It ensures children reckon with the idea of death before fully understanding and eventually coming to terms with it as they mature. One only needs to look at Mufasa's, James Earl Jones, death at the hands of Scar, Jeremy Irons, and the 1994 film versus the 2019 one to see how bad the remake truly is. Sucking explosivity in the animation and the animals' facial expressions, Favreau turns these larger-than-life characters into artificial constructions devoid of any emotion, or tangible feeling even if it wants to, badly, recreate a juxtaposition between Mufasa's fallen Simba's childlikey witnessing it all. Since such a dreary affair made $1 billion at the box office, the next logical step is to make another one but with a genuinely talented filmmaker, who has way more to lose than Favreau, now going all in on killing the magic of cinema with his anti-art volume in the upcoming The Mandalorian Grogu. To say I wasn't looking forward to watching this would be the understatement of the year, especially in an era where cinema has become far more listless as an art form where synthetic images are now supplanting human-made creativity and bringing nothing exciting to the table. A film like Here, for example, is a purely digital file with zero emotions or sincerity through its construction of aged protagonists living in an entirely plastic environment. The results are garish at best and soul-crushing at worst because they defeat the purpose of what has made cinema transcend the test of time as the most honest and artistically compelling medium of all. And directors with some pedigree, unfortunately, can't do anything about the machine they are now stuck in. Forced to turn in junk they would simply like to wash themselves off as soon as possible. But what happens when a storied author, in the complimentary sense of the term, like Barry Jenkins decides to take a crack out of this story of Mufasa from an entirely digital environment and attempts to imbue some form of artistry and feeling? Shockingly, a lot. The plot of Mufasa, the Lion King of course. That's not to say that he won't fall prey to the trappings of a pre-existing IP. In this case, he frames Mufasa's, Aaron Pierre, upbringing from Stray to the King of Pride Rock through Rafiki, John Kani, telling a story to Simba, Donald Glover, and Nala's, Beyoncé tilde copyright Knowles Carter, daughter, Kiara, Blue Ivy Carter, with Timon, Billy Eichner, and Pama, Seth Rogen, bringing their own commentaries to the mix. And these parts, where Jenkins and screenwriter Jeff Nathanson go the Lion King 1A 1/2, don't work. Rogen and Eichner are a fun pair, to be sure, but the material they're given removes the seriousness of the main narrative, which is the burgeoning friendship, brotherhood between Mufasa and Taka, Kelvin Harrison Jr., as the latter lion saves a cub from drowning after a flood separates him from his parents. Voiced by Anakin Anna Rose and Keith David. Since he is not part of Obasi's, Lenny James, clan, and Taka is propped up as the future king, Mufasa is taken care of by Thandai Newton, and learns how to hunt. This allows him to develop a keen sense of perception, through his smell, to be one with nature. But they are soon stalked by a white lion clan led by Kuros, Mads Mikkelsen, whose power-hungry, despotic goals are to rule all of the Pride Lands and exact revenge on Mufasa for having killed his son in battle. Taka, who surveyed the two, ran away in fear, angering his father for not wanting to step up as the future king. As Mufasa and Taka flee, they eventually meet Rafiki, Zazu, Preston Nyman, and Sarabi, Tiffany Boone, whom we know will eventually fall in love with Mufasa and become Pride Rock's queen. As on the nose as Mufasa, the Lion King's symptoms of prequelitis are, which explains how Taka followed a dark path, got his scar, and name, and how Pride Rock was founded in a lush idyll called Mile. More dramatic beats of its story seem secondary to explaining trivial things that are usually stronger when left to the aura of mystery. And even amidst glaring issues, Jenkins' visualizations of its animal characters are oddly endearing and surprisingly moving. With cinematographer James Laxton, his closest collaborator, Jenkins tries to create artful, almost poetic compositions to digitized environments and creatures in an attempt to experiment with technologies he is entirely unfamiliar with. Using Favreau's photorealism as a mere foundation, He challenges his perception of what cinema should strive for by giving expressivity to characters whose emotions are complex to read on their faces and even frequently distort perspective by employing artificial fisheye lenses and snoricams to provide movement and a sense of spatial scale to a world that doesn't exist beyond a computer. It makes early action scenes, such as a harrowing flood or stampede, feel urgent and profoundly impactful in the eyes of the lions we follow. And once we get to the eventual Shakespearean transformation from Taka into Scar, there's a sense of pure terror reflected into the lion's eyes that wasn't perceptible in Favreau's version. Those subtle moments of clarity give Mufasa, the Lion King, its intriguing raison d'apostrophe superscript a trait and the technical challenge Jenkins gives himself. How do I make purely artificial images exciting and full of real, tangible characters who imbue enough dramatic power for the audience to feel invested in their story? First, you get Lin-Manuel Miranda to write songs that solidify Taka and Mufasa's bond. I always wanted a brother, at a pivotal point. Then, you give their actors enough room to breathe so their renditions of the iconic characters don't erase the work veteran actors like James Earl Jones, Jeremy Irons, and Chiwetel Ejiofor brought to Mufasa and Scar. Aaron Pierre knows he isn't James Earl Jones and will never reach the same heights he did when breathing life into Mufasa. However, he also knows he isn't imitating Jones but a younger version of the character whose mistakes and early on fears will make him a much stronger king when he eventually reaches that status in The Lion King. It's Pierre and Harrison's turns as both a Mufasa and Taka that encourage us to keep watching and pay attention to how Jenkins creates movement and emotion with the constraints he is forced to work with. At some point, we begin to forget that this entire film is constructed through a computer. Jenkins makes us feel the grass, smell the flowers, and pay attention to how the animals are differently textured, where each bead of sweat or reverberating plant has an effect on how Mufasa and his friends operate in the often challenging environments they explore. It's not a simple demonstration of how far technology has advanced since the release of James Cameron's Avatar. It's a profoundly authentic piece that's decidedly Jenkins, even if he can't fully exalt his own vision to the extent he'd likely want. By challenging himself and attempting to stimulate audiences through a machine that doesn't know the word emotion, Jenkins is at his most vulnerable, which makes Mufasa, The Lion King equally compelling as his best-ever film, Medicine for Melancholy, though for entirely different reasons. As a result, Jenkins can't be derided for trying to infuse some life into the prequel to one of the most lifeless films ever made. And he mostly succeeds, which is a testament to his singular artistic talent. His career is not only completely unscathed by experimenting with tools he was completely unfamiliar with before taking the gig, but he'll also be able to make even better movies in the independent sphere with this experience under his belt. The jury's still out on that front, for sure, but my gut feeling is that his next project will likely be his best yet. A Broken Bar the Cat's I Live Sky film reviews over on Blue Sky, and then piece them together with commentary to make our full reviews here on Medium. Before they go to Letterboxd, please subscribe anywhere, everywhere you can for more of our shenanigans. A Broken Bar the trailer is faithful to the film, in that it looks boring and inessential, and as it turns out is. Mufasa, The Lion King is the first photorealistic Disney remake I've bothered to see. Getting to see movies for free every day helps, and it makes me pretty grateful I had the good sense to skip the others leading up to this one. I couldn't sleep at night if I'd paid a dime of my own money to see this. I obviously didn't bother to see Favreau's 2019 The Lion King remake, but at that time, I got the sense that the photorealistic animation film was more a tech demo or experiment than a film. 5+ years later, it's not fair to call it an experiment anymore. But it's still very much true that this seems like a tech demo in search of some heart or soul. We arrive at the conceit of the piece. This script seems to be a collection of production gambits, and little else. Timon and Pumbaa are in this movie, a lot, because if you're out to make money, you'd be crazy not to include them. Are they in the story being told? They are not, at all, and they hang a lampshade on it about 40 times. When we for some inexplicable reason keep dipping out of the story Rafiki is telling to the U.S., the audience, which includes Simba's daughter, Kiara, and the two savannah mates over and over and over again. If they had anything interesting to say, it's all very meta, including literal winks to camera, but none of it is good, worthwhile, or had more than a modicum of thought put into it. I would not so much resent it that they're constantly intruding into the bare-bones story we're being told to complain about not being in it. It's a sort of narrative catch-22, wherein the main story isn't compelling or captivating enough to resist checking in with Time and Pama, and Time and Pama only manage to undercut what little gravitas or momentum that main story has when they interrupt it. Press enter or click to view image in full size. Press enter or click to view image in full size. Press enter or click to view image in full size. Time and Pama feature prominently in this confused prequel, sequel, related. It's not money that's the root of all evil, it's the love of money that's the root of all evil. Is this movie evil? I don't know. It's not good, that's for sure. Reading the room, the kids in the theater, seeing the movie meant for children, didn't seem to respond negatively to the cartoon characters. I guess they're used to it, at this point. It was horrifying for me until fully halfway through the movie, when I was too bored to continue to be horrified indefinitely. Per Wikipedia, Disney has committed 21 live-action remakes to date, leading up to Mufasa, The Lion King. Have they done pretty well? A broken bar. A lot of these numbers are made up or don't matter, but it gives us a rough idea of how successful this corporate strategy or a creative direction has been. Thus far, by my count, Disney has invested, very roughly, $2.8 billion to gross, less roughly, $10.221 billion and net $7.42 billion, plus value for their streaming service that's way harder to calculate. So, basically, what the fuck do I know? I sort of inferred from the continuation of the process that it must have been going well for Disney, but adding up the numbers was sobering. This has been wildly successful for Disney, not counting Mulan, which is a mystifying failure in hindsight, given how well the rest of these have typically done. Get Keiko Cats, Co.s stories in your inbox. Join Medium for free to get updates from this writer. Subscribe, but just because they make money doesn't mean that they're good. Take Sonic 3, which I also saw this weekend. Take it, please. Box office, Sonic 3 speeds to $60 million debut. Mufasa, The Lion King gets trampled with $35. A broken bar. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is powering to the top of box office charts while Mufasa, The Lion King is getting trampled in a broken bar. Variety.com. Listen to this quote from Paramount's heavily bro president of domestic distribution. As we've seen this franchise's audience grow, we saw a window in the marketplace in December where we thought we could stand out, says Paramount's president of domestic distribution Chris Aronson. We've been able to accomplish that. Sonic is going to dominate through the holidays. Soulless, tone-deaf, circling dates on calendars and crushing the competition. What the fuck does that have to do with art? Press enter or click to view image in full size. Look at that dreadful little monster. I want to like him, but I find these little CGI gremlins horrifying. From a pacing standpoint, it takes absolutely forever for the story to get to the point, indicative of the fact that there's not enough story here for a full movie, hence the Craven prequel, sequel dodge. 12:18 to 12:26. That's 8 full minutes of screen time before we get into the Mufasa storyline. It's interminable, and feels like hours. Time and Pama are so obnoxious and underwritten it sounds like Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner were told to just go nuts on the day. I have no idea whether they improv'd any of their dialogue, but it would explain a lot. I'd hate to think someone wrote any of that. Enjoy me not settling into the photorealism. Despite the fact that they were 10, 15 feet tall on a screen 40 feet from me, I just wanted to stomp them most times I saw them. Press enter or click to view image in full size. Press enter or click to view image in full size. Press enter or click to view image in full size. It's not all horrible little monsters. Rafiki comes off pretty well with the live-action, photorealistic treatment. Once Rafiki joins the story, the narrative picks up a little bit. I'm remembering that he's the most interesting, dynamic character from the original, as well, and this movie wisely leans into the basis of Mufasa's relationship with Rafiki. One thing I didn't realize watching The Lion King, because it wasn't at that point true, is that locale, the monarchy, the whole culture and society, are basically brand new. Lions typically live until about 14 years old, so Pride Rock became Pride Rock due to an elephant stampede. There's about 20 stampedes in this movie. Buckle up, maybe 2 or 3 years before Simba was born. Forgive me, but in my head canon, Mufasa was just one in a long, unbroken line of Lion Kings, which Simba is the first to buck. Nah, Mufasa is essentially an upjumped usurper whom the script is backflips to make into a reluctant true king. I don't think wokeness is offensive, but I'm online enough to know some people do, and I bet this movie would trigger them if they bothered to see it or somehow heard about it. This film was capped for me by its anticlimactic ending, both on screen and in the theater. One lone person attempted to clap at the end as credits rolled, and nobody joined in. I don't think the kids were still with us. The ones that were yet awake were rustling and fidgeting by the time the story ended. What a weird, boring chore. It's not the worst thing you could see with your kids, but I can't imagine it's the best, either, and I'd have been upset if I had spent a penny of my hard-earned money on this underwhelming cash grab. Woof. Follow the Cats on Letterboxd. Cook and Cats Company. Cook's profile. Cook and Cats Company uses Letterboxd to share film reviews and lists. 1015 films watched. Favorites. American Psycho. A Broken Bar. Letterboxd.com. Follow the Cats on Blue Sky. Cook Cats Company at iamkmckeld.bsky.social. Seattle, WA-based. Bellevue. Semi-professional film reviewer and small business owner. Part-time AMC usher. I've got a broken barbsky.app. Mufasa, the Lion King, has one very important thing going for it. An original story. That may seem like faint praise, or at least a very, very low bar in the grand scheme of things. But in a landscape where Disney continues to remake its animated catalog in slightly different, and usually less interesting, forms, whether live action or photorealistic, that usually only serves to remind how good the 2D animation was, originality is not to be undervalued. And this story isn't simply checking off fan service boxes and over-explaining origins that never needed them. It's actually good. A prequel to The Lion King, opening in theaters Thursday, it's a tale of found family, betrayal and destiny, one that begins to explain the estrangement between brothers Scar and Mufasa that we all know will end in murder. How Mufasa, Aaron Pierre, ends up as king of the Pride Lands, and, perhaps most importantly, why only one has an English accent. In this telling, Scar was once Taka, Kelvin Harrison Jr., destined to be king of his pride, and Mufasa was a lost cub, separated from his parents in a dramatic flood. Taka saves Mufasa and brings him into his family. His mother, Thandai Newton, embraces the newcomer. His father, Lenny James, rejects him as nothing but a stray. Not that it matters much to the cubs, both are thrilled to have a brother. They play and protect one another and grow up together. But fissures start to appear in this foundation as Mufasa emerges as the exceptional one and Taka as the coward. And then a lioness enters the picture in Sarabi, Tiffany Boone. We've all seen enough movies to know what happens with that. The screenplay comes from veteran screenwriter Jeff Nathanson, whose credits include the 2019 Lion King, this year's Lovely Young Woman, and The Sea and Catch Me If You Can. He clearly took a corporate mandate, give us more Lion King, and made the absolute least cynical version of that. There are still questionable corporate feeling choices, like straining to tie it to a current and future Lion King by having Rafiki, John Kani, tell the story to Simba, Donald Glover, and Nala's, Beyoncé tilde copyright, daughter Kiara, Blue Ivy Carter, Pama, Seth Rogen, and Timon, Billy Eichner. These comedic breaks, and Lin-Manuel Miranda's songs peppered throughout, aren't additive. They really only serve to break up the momentum of the compelling main story. But the biggest issue remains the form itself. The photorealistic computer-generated animals may have technically improved since the 2019 Lion King, but they still aren't movie stars like their 2D animation counterparts. Impressive though it may be intellectually, the reality of watching these animals for 2 hours is a somewhat numbing and dull experience despite the best efforts of director Barry Jenkins. The Oscar-winning filmmaker of Moonlight did an admirable job adding visual interest and color into the landscapes, bringing it closer to the vibrancy of animation than ever before, and making it as cinematic as possible. The original story also helps here in that he was never going to have to recreate iconic sequences in a less stimulating form. There are just inherent limitations that filmmakers have not yet figured out, including how odd it looks for these animals' mouths to be moving and speaking English words. It's strangest when they're singing, mouths agape to hold the long notes in a way that no lion's mouth should ever appear. If this is one future for filmmaking, there's still a lot of room for improvement and experimentation. That doesn't mean it shouldn't be embraced while the kinks are worked out, but it also doesn't mean the movie-going public has to get excited about every rehash. Mufasa, The Lion King is better than the ones that came before it, but that doesn't mean it's great. Mufasa, The Lion King, a Walt Disney Studios release in theaters Thursday, is rated PG by the Motion Picture Association for peril, action, violence and some thematic elements. Running time, 118 minutes. 2.5 stars out of 4. Mufasa, The Lion King, reviewed by Robert Daniels, narrated by Eric Adams. Moonlight's Barry Jenkins makes the leap to big-budget, popcorn entertainment and just like the CGI stars of Mufasa, he lands on his feet. This origin story stands alone by pitting familiar characters against new villains, resulting in a photorealistic film that's driven as much by its storytelling as by its technology. The ungainly structure and self-aware winks at the audience can sometimes distract from Mufasa's powerful myth-making, but Jenkins' knack for eliciting deep emotion and visual wonder remains sharp, especially when bolstered by Aaron Pierre and Kelvin Harrison Jr.'s delightful voice work. Mufasa, The Lion King is better than the 2019 live-action remake of the animated classic, The Lion King. But if we are being honest, that movie did not set a high bar. As a shot-for-shot remake that brought nothing new to the table, it is by far my least favorite of the Disney live-action movies. I wanted to enjoy Mufasa, knowing that technology has advanced and that this would be a completely new story piqued my interest, and then I watched it. This movie explores the untold origin of Mufasa and Scar, formerly Taka. That said, it doesn't exactly line up with the original film. In The Lion King, Mufasa comes from a line of nobility. It is mentioned. It is canon. However, in Mufasa, The Lion King, he is saved by Taka after being swept away from his parents. His family was not royalty, but Taka is the heir to the throne of his pack. Taka's pride, reluctantly, takes Mufasa in. However, he is forced to live with the woman, what a horrible fate, a broken bar, and hunt with them instead of lying around all day with the men. The song, I Always Wanted a Brother, is sort of the Hakuna Matata of this film, meaning as Taka and Mufasa sing together, they grow up. This is the transitional song, and, unfortunately, the last time this movie is any good. There are bits and pieces of bright moments that shine through in the second and third acts, but for the most part, it just gets worse and worse. Pretty instantly after they grow up, there is a major threat to their pride from outsiders, the lions who do not look like their families. They are albino lions, and so they are shunned. Obviously, this makes them extremely evil, terrifying, and vengeful against any other lions. Taka and Mufasa are sent off to continue the bloodline elsewhere, yes, because they don't even live in Pride Rock yet. In fact, they aren't even so sure it exists. Along the way, they find Sarabi, whose pack has also been assaulted by the outsiders. She has Zuzu with her, and the group pretty quickly decides it makes more sense for them to travel together, in search of paradise, instead of separately. Even though they should be miles ahead of the outsiders, the other lions continuously catch up to them way faster than they should. The song, Bye Bye, which Kuros, the king of the outsiders, sings, is the worst of the bunch. The lyrics are childish. People at my screening were literally laughing at it. What happens after this song, presumably, is extremely dark, so much so that they do not even show it on screen, and only sort of hint to it. Kuros never really felt threatening to me. Perhaps that is because I knew that Mufasa, Taka, Scar, and Sarabi were all going to make it out alive because of their roles in The Lion King. One of the things that bothered me the most is that Taka's descent into evil is nearly instantaneous. and the reasoning behind it is a broken bar offensive to say the least. In one split second, he is suddenly not the same character we have spent the entire movie with. If you have listened to the songs, you know that one of the lines in Brother Betrayed is literally a "I'm next in line, she should be mine." Sure, Disney, women have no right to choose who they want to be with. They are clearly property for the royal men to decide what to do with. Mufasa, the Lion King, looks pretty, I will give it that, but it suffers from weak songs and too many decisions that alter the beloved classic. After the first 20 minutes or so, it starts to go downhill, and never goes back up. There are several plot holes and things that, honestly, just do not make any sense, especially knowing how the Lion King ends up. The movie clocks in at just under 2 hours. But it feels longer, much longer. It's interesting to think about how I was a child when Disney re-established itself as a powerhouse animation studio. Now, as an adult, I see how it's relying on those successes to help maintain some form of dominance. One could say these efforts have worked, but at what cost? 2019's The Lion King was one of several live-action, let's stick with that term for the sake of brevity, remakes during the 2010s that became massive hits thanks to nostalgia and novelty. Quality-wise, however, these features have been a mixed bag. For every Jungle Book, there are 2 Pinocchios. So, with that in mind, what's one to make of Mufasa, the Lion King, a prequel film that recruited Oscar winner Barry Jenkins, of all people, to direct? Could the Moonlight director find new avenues to explore that would better exemplify what's possible with these digital recreations of hand-drawn hits? The good news is that Mufasa, Warthogs and all, is a solid step in the right direction. Following a prologue set after the events of The Lion King establishing that the wise mandrill Rafiki, John Kani, intends to tell Simba's daughter Kiara, Blue Ivy Carter, a story regarding her grandfather. The main thrust of this story focuses on a young Mufasa, Aaron Pierre. The future king was once a lost cub who would befriend a young prince, Taka, Kelvin Harrison Jr., and be taken in by his family. The two would become as close as brothers. However, they are put through intense trials after an encounter with Kuros, Mads Mikkelsen, the leader of a pride of white lions, who seeks revenge and chases after our heroes who try to stay steps ahead while intending to find a new permanent home. See also, A Nickel Boys Review. Remember who you are. While it doesn't escape me that calling these films soulless is unfair to the amount of work that goes into creating a photorealistic CG world populated by digital animals that look largely like the real thing, it was hard to get around the fact that Jon Favreau's 2019 remake lacked the joy, let alone the power, that came from what the original 1994 blockbuster had delivered. While I've argued that it felt more like a test case for photoreal animation technology by applying it to a property that was bound to be a huge success regardless, it was still underwhelming to see so much profit go toward a film that no one will really ever choose when considering which version to watch. That's a long-winded way of saying that Mufasa corrects the biggest issue the previous film had. The animals are highly expressive this time around, allowing for emotions to go both ways. Right from the start, it becomes very clear that a huge note was taken by Jenkins, the animators, and whoever else when it came to understanding just how much more successful a movie like this could be if the animals were not being held to some strict rule that forced them to look as though they were part of a nature documentary. As a result, the sizable vocal cast actually feels like they are being put to good use. It's a decidedly better choice, as the full weight of the relationships between Mufasa and Taka depends on us being able to see how they first form a bond versus what it takes to turn Taka into the outcast known as Scar, whom Mufasa merely tolerates by the time we see these two as fully grown adults. On top of this drama, however, there's plenty of room for other actors to shine. Connie, who is a wonderful South African playwright now happily seated on Disney's roster for Black Panther and Lion King movies, continues injecting plenty of life into Rafiki, with Kaja's Aaligazer bringing fine effort as a younger version of the eccentric old world monkey. The same can be said for Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen as Timon and Pumbaa, one of the few successes of the first film, who are on hand to provide humorous color to Rafiki's story. Lesser films wouldn't get much mileage from what feels like an obligation to add these fan-favorite characters. Still, whether it's the writing or good comedic instincts, I enjoyed their interludes. With the Shakespearean drama dialed back, Pierre and Harrison are good here, both curiously having swapped their natural accents for their roles. The dynamic at play is effective with efforts to create their own versions of these characters rather than attempt to imitate James Earl Jones, Jeremy Irons, or Chiwetel Ejiofor. On top of that, introducing Tiffany Boone as Sarabi also allows for some more playful stakes that are familiar but helpful nonetheless in making the characters count and providing them with agency. On the villain side of things, I enjoyed Mikkelson's voicing of Kuros, which includes the song he gets to deliver. More on the music in a bit. Mufasa creates solid tension from the presence of this white lion pack, even if it does mean there's enough of them for this movie to have a larger body count than expected. Whatever the case, this film is pretty action-packed, thanks to the number of chases and fights scattered throughout the film. With the formidable foe leading the antagonistic element, I can appreciate the menace developed for a family-friendly feature. Getting back to the music, Lin-Manuel Miranda was on hand to write the songs for the film, with Label M once again providing additional vocals, and Jenkins' regular Nicholas Bridle taking over scoring duties from Hans Zimmer, who won his first of 2 Oscars for the original film. There are themes from the original in use at various moments, of course, and it would feel more like a shortcut were it not for how understandably fitting it is to feature that music. As far as the songs go, however, it's a mixed bag that only adds so many notable numbers. I enjoyed the villain song, Bye Bye, even if it's nowhere near one of my all-time favorite Disney numbers. Be prepared. Perhaps listening to some of the others more may help. Still, while Miranda does bring a fresh sound to the world of The Lion King, it's a tough task to call upon anyone to add more songs as a follow-up to award-winning music that collectively make up one of the best-selling soundtracks of all time. In terms of being a follow-up, it's worth noting that, in addition to the emoting animals, the visuals, as a whole, are stunning. This is a very impressive film when considering the number of animals on screen at one time, let alone convincing me that none of what is shown exists as anything outside of a computer. With several major set pieces involving water this time around, it feels like real effort was put in to show off more than just the idea that a photorealistic world could be created. There are movements, interactions with environments, and other details seen throughout Mufasa that kept me from questioning the digital nature of the production. Does that mean I was entirely absorbed by the story being told? Not necessarily. While effective enough in having me understand the power of a bond and what happens when it is tested, it's ultimately a pretty simple tale that fills in blanks we didn't necessarily need to have filled in the first place. The script by Jeff Nathanson and whatever mood Jenkins was aiming for certainly allow this movie to work better than it could have in the broad terms of what is being presented, but it still feels as though there's only so much being accomplished. The aims of Mufasa didn't necessarily need to be grand. Sure, the notion of Jenkins being on board had the film geek side of me thinking of all the possibilities in a world where a major studio would largely stay away and let their filmmakers have it. But no, I was not expecting if Beale Street could talk. But with African Cats, this film provides what is needed to make a successful enough prequel, with the right choices for improving upon what came before. The movie looks and sounds excellent, with a voice cast that feels far more alert this time around, and I was plenty engaged by the amount of adventure on display. We'll see what else Disney can come up with when delivering more of these live-action efforts, but as it stands, the King has returned, and I'm fine with it. Mufasa, The Lion King opens in theaters and IMAX on December 20, 2024. Mufasa, The Lion King is better than the 2019 live-action remake of the animated classic, The Lion King. But if we are being honest, that movie did not set a high bar. As a shot-for-shot remake that brought nothing new to the table, it is by far my least favorite of the Disney live-action movies. I wanted to enjoy Mufasa, knowing that technology has advanced and that this would be a completely new story piqued my interest, and then I watched it. This movie explores the untold origin of Mufasa and Scar, formerly Taka. That said, it doesn't exactly line up with the original film. In The Lion King, Mufasa comes from a line of nobility. It is mentioned. It is canon. However, in Mufasa, The Lion King, he is saved by Taka after being swept away from his parents. His family was not royalty, but Taka is the heir to the throne of his pack. Taka's pride, reluctantly, takes Mufasa in. However, he is forced to live with the woman. What a horrible fate. A broken bar, and hunt with them instead of lying around all day with the men. The song, I Always Wanted a Brother, is sort of the Hakuna Matata of this film, meaning as Taka and Mufasa sing together, they grow up. This is the transitional song, and, unfortunately, the last time this movie is any good. There are bits and pieces of bright moments that shine through in the second and third acts, but for the most part, it just gets worse and worse. Pretty instantly after they grow up, there is a major threat to their pride from outsiders, the lions who do not look like their families. They are albino lions, and so they are shunned. Obviously, this makes them extremely evil, terrifying, and vengeful against any other lions. Taka and Mufasa are sent off to continue the bloodline elsewhere. Yes, because they don't even live in Pride Rock yet. In fact, they aren't even so sure it exists. Mufasa, The Lion King is better than the 2019 live-action remake of the animated classic, The Lion King. But if we are being honest, that movie did not set a high bar. As a shot-for-shot remake that brought nothing new to the table, it is by far my least favorite of the Disney live-action movies. I wanted to enjoy Mufasa. Knowing that technology has advanced and that this would be a completely new story piqued my interest, and then I watched it. This movie explores the untold origin of Mufasa and Scar, formerly Taka. That said, it doesn't exactly line up with the original film. In The Lion King, Mufasa comes from a line of nobility. It is mentioned. It is canon. However, in Mufasa, The Lion King, he is saved by Taka after being swept away from his parents. His family was not royalty, but Taka is the heir to the throne of his pack. Taka's pride, reluctantly, takes Mufasa in. However, he is forced to live with the woman. What a horrible fate. A broken bar, and hunt with them instead of lying around all day with the men. The song, I Always Wanted a Brother, is sort of the Hakuna Matata of this film, meaning as Taka and Mufasa sing together, they grow up. This is the transitional song, and, unfortunately, the last time this movie is any good. There are bits and pieces of bright moments that shine through in the second and third acts, but for the most part, it just gets worse and worse. Pretty instantly after they grow up, there is a major threat to their pride from outsiders, the lions who do not look like their families. They are albino lions, and so they are shunned. Obviously, this makes them extremely evil, terrifying, and vengeful against any other lions. Taka and Mufasa are sent off to continue the bloodline elsewhere. Yes, because they don't even live in Pride Rock yet. In fact, they aren't even so sure it exists. Along the way, they find Sarabi, whose pack has also been assaulted by the outsiders. She has Zuzu with her, and the group pretty quickly decides it makes more sense for them to travel together, in search of paradise, instead of separately. Even though they should be miles ahead of the outsiders, the other lions continuously catch up to them way faster than they should. The song, Bye Bye, which Kuros, the king of the outsiders, sings, is the worst of the bunch. The lyrics are childish. People at my screening were literally laughing at it. What happens after this song, presumably, is extremely dark, so much so that they do not even show it on screen, and only sort of hint to it. Kuros never really felt threatening to me. Perhaps that is because I knew that Mufasa, Taka, Scar, and Sarabi were all going to make it out alive because of their roles in The Lion King. One of the things that bothered me the most is that Taka's descent into evil is nearly instantaneous, and the reasoning behind it is a broken bar offensive to say the least. In one split second, he is suddenly not the same character we have spent the entire movie with. If you have listened to the songs, you know that one of the lines in Brother Betrayed is literally I'm next in line. She should be mine. Sure, Disney, women have no right to choose who they want to be with. They are clearly property for the royal men to decide what to do with. Because Mufasa, The Lion King is actually a story being told by Rafiki. Every so often we cut back to the cave, where he is talking to Pumbaa, Timon, and Kiara, Simba and Nala's daughter. This is clearly meant to provide comedic relief, because every time we go there, Timon and Pumbaa make jokes about what has been going on in the story. These are sometimes meta, talking about going to see the Broadway show of The Lion King, and almost never funny. In fact, these moments pull viewers out of this story every time they happen, doing the opposite of what they are likely there to do. This breaks up the plot, making it really hard to be invested. After getting separated from his family by a great flood, a shocking amount of this movie takes place in the snow and underwater. A young Mufasa, both Bray Allen and Prequel Rankins voice the cub, finds himself an orphan of circumstance. The lost creature is reluctantly taken in by a half-friendly pride when his new friend Taka, Theo Somulu, later Kelvin Harrison Jr., rescues him from a would-be crocodile attack. Taka's mother, Thandai Newton, embraces Mufasa instantly, but Taka's fearsome father and the pride's leader, Obasi, Lenny James, refuses to accept him completely. In the present day, Kiara listens to Rafiki intently with perpetual scene stealers Timon, Billy Eichner, and Pumbaa, Seth Rogen, serving as both meta-commentary and a reminder that Simba had it way better, even eating bugs. It's a reasonable suggestion. Unimaginative musical numbers match the original bangers with copycat songs almost one for one, and just as Mufasa's adoptive family starts to calm down, an even bigger threat emerges, circled by an army of all-white lions, which, if you Google them, are rare, but do exist. Taka and Mufasa are forced to flee the wrath of the inconsistently catty Kuros, Mads Mikkelsen, right as he's singing his silly little villain song, Bye Bye, to the rest of his stolen subjects. If even one brave decision was made during this project, then it was casting a Danish dude in a universe famous for its use of Swahili. Mikkelsen's unique voice further protects his character from a pitfall that many of the other lions fall into. Awash with photorealistic sameness, Mufasa captures Jenkins' literal attempt to herd big cats inside a frame that can't keep the ambitious design up to pace with the pursuit-heavy plot. Up mountains, down mountains, through rivers, around rivers, look out for that stampede. And another one in 20 minutes. Song, jazz pause, repeat. What feels like a tonal treadmill is mostly differentiated by environments that will no doubt be wildly confusing to many elementary schoolers' understanding of African geography, and may even lead adults to mix up the characters. Taka and Mufasa look and sound too much alike, particularly during their scenes in the snow, and the same goes for their foes, the outsiders. Go to the bathroom during the wrong adventure song/catastrophe/monologue and you may need a minute to get reoriented.